My favorite example of why a crash test has to be taken as a laboratory test, and that means it doesn't directly apply to the real world, is for, I'll give you examples also later, but for the simplest reason, if you think about it, about 10 years ago, India was extremely sensitive to fuel economy numbers, and today we are aware that there is a hygiene number per segment, and once you're above that number, then it's fine, right? So if you think commuter today, I don't think the commuter is looking for 98.22 kilometers per liter. If a commuter does 75 plus at the 100cc level, that's enough. Beyond that, whatever I get is bonus, but it doesn't stop me from buying that thing. Back in the day, though, we were very sensitive, and we would get a lot of response saying that this vehicle was supposed to give me 98 kilometers per liter, and I never see like more than 74. What the hell happened? Right? Remember, the 98 was in the lab. They controlled the temperature. Absolutely. They controlled the exact revs for exact amounts of time in which gear. It was a standard cycle. And the standardization was to make a replicable test, which means that if you were to put a Splendor and a CD100 and a Bajaj Aspire and something else, put them through the same cycle, the differences in economy would be accurate even if the numbers weren't accurate in the real world. Which is to say, the expectation is if in the lab, the Splendor gives you 12% more fuel economy than rival A, then in the real world, an owner should expect, riding the bikes the same way, a difference of roughly 12%. Will they ever see the number that was seen in the lab? No, it's not possible. So there's a lot of variation in the real world. And remember, therefore, that the crash test job is to give you a assessment of what might happen in terms of what the vehicle will be able to do to protect you in a crash. It doesn't predict the outcome of every crash. You can still die in a car. Right? And I mean, and if you don't die in a car, I know I love dark stuff, but if you don't die in a car crash, you're still going to die at the end. Okay, so let's see how much crash test data informs how much you'll extend your life by buying a better car. And there is data for this too now.
Oh, you have that data?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so the first thing that I discovered yesterday is that while in India it's too early and we haven't done this, in the US there are research studies that compare real world accident data versus the crash test data. So there are people who've gone and tallied it. And in the US, accidents are logged for insurance purposes. The police reports are a lot more comprehensive, etc. So there's a fairly large data set. So some people went and said, okay, so the NHTSA, which is the body that crash tests cars in India or whatever, they take a 5-star car.
In the US?
In the US. And then look at all the crash data for that car and see, hey, what's the correlation, right? The strongest correlation is in the fatality scores and not in the minor accident. Which means that if there was the chance that the accident would be fatal, and remember the word fatal means death. It does not mean close to death, non-serious. It means just one thing. A fatal accident is an accident that caused a death. Okay, it's not a gray area. It's a white or black. And I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of people use fatal as an interchangeable word for serious. It's not. Fatal means somebody died.
Oh, really?
Right?
I didn't know.
So fatal accidents, there is a very strong correlation, which means that if you buy a safer, say a 5-star car or whatever, and you are in an accident in that car, fatalities, there is a direct correlation in how much the car will do to protect you. And the fatality numbers are really low for highly rated cars. The less serious the accident is, however, the correlation starts to go away, and even inferior rated cars do pretty well when it comes to minor injuries. Right. So the more serious an accident you will have, there is a direct correlation. But remember, statistically, you're not likely to have the more serious accident. You're likely to have the less serious accident a lot more often. Okay? So in that sense, as a backup plan, having a great crash test safety rating will protect you from maybe that 1 or 2 life-threatening crash that you might have in the rest of your life. But the minor fender benders that you go through, they're all going to do roughly the same thing.
This was just a small snippet of a much larger conversation, which you can find on the main MotorInc channel. So why don't you head on over there, hit subscribe, and hear the entire conversation.